Hi there, I'm Marmalade, and thank you for joining me for episode 10 of What I've Learned on the PCT. Again, we have 4 really good questions, and without further ado, let's get right into it. So my first person was Deborah Peel. She asked, can you talk about the permit process? Did you get a full PCT permit, a 500-mile permit? What do you recommend for those who aren't awarded a permit but want to go for a section? So the key word here is section. So my very first year in 19, you guys, if you follow me, know this next year will be my 5th year and hopefully my last year finishing the PCT. But my first year I did get in the queue. I got a number that it was like 3,000 something, but I got the date I wanted, which was March 26th, and I got a permit for the whole thing. So I don't have the whole permit process memorized, but this is how it works. So ever since then, I've been planning to do over 500-mile chunks. So because of that, you're supposed to get a permit. Now you can get individual permits, which are harder to get and obtain along the way in national and state parks, things like that. But for me, the simplest thing is to just get a 500+ mile permit for the long section I want to do. For me, it just covers everything. There's no thought put into it. I know I'm covered if I have it. And so ever since after the first year, I've been getting partial permits. Now how this works so far, and it will happen again this year, is they do 2 rounds when you're getting the full permits from Mexico to Canada or the other way around. And you get in the queue and they give out 50 permits per day on the calendar. But on the first round, they only give 35 of the 50. So the first round, it's luck of the draw. You get a number. And this year they even did a registration process, which I didn't do, so I don't know much about. But it's supposedly designed so if you want to hike with a partner or friends or family members, things like that. So anyway. I had a pretty high number, like I said, 3,500, but I had no problem getting my date, my year in 2019. But because I've been getting partial permits, if you want to do a section, this is a very good thing that I think most people don't know. When you want to do a section, technically, if it's under 500 miles, you don't need a permit. The only time you need a permit in those, let's say you want to do 200 miles or 300 miles, the only time you do need a permit is if you're going through something like the Sierras or places where they require one. That's where you would either get the PCT permit or just file for the individual ones in that area, and then you're set. So once they do the second round of the full permits, the full length of the trail, which is, so the first round is around November 1st. It's always end of October or early November every year. And then I think on the 14th or 15th of January, they do the second round. And since my first year where I got the permit I needed, but since then I've been doing partial permits like I spoke about, I have to wait till, this is actually, I think will really help you. You have to wait till after the first 2 rounds, which they're giving full permits, and that second round they give the remaining 15 full permits per day on the calendar. So the first round is 35 of the 50 they let out every day on the calendar, and then the 15 on January 15th. After that, you can apply for partial permits on the PCT if you want. So sometimes I know areas that I don't need a permit. Sometimes I don't know if I do or not. So I just get the permit. I'm covered. I don't have to think about it. So what you do is after the 15th, you just go on there like you would for a normal full-length permit, and you just pick the start and the end place that you want to go to, and that'll cover you. I know that what I understand so far in the past years is like the last 2 years I've been getting the Sierras done, which I finally did this year. But I had to get out in 2021, I had to get out midway by Mammoth because the Dixie fires closed all the national forests. And then this year I went back in there and finished it up to Truckee. So when I did that, I waited until after the second round of the full permits, after the 15th, then I went on the website and I requested a permit that's from where I want to start to where I want to end. And when it covers the Sierras, they are only given, I think it's something like 1,400 permits that are for the Sierras that are not on the full length permits, but just partial. So like the last 2 years I had to request going through the Sierras, and because of that, I had to get, it's a special permit, and that's why you want to do it, because it's hard to get in the Sierras. So now I'm past that now. If you want, I'm going to give you a tip too. If you asked me about sections, so I hope that answers your question. You wait till after the second round on the 15th of January, and then you can file for what section you want to do on the PCTA's website. But the other way to get a full permit, if let's say you want to do the whole trail, any of you guys, and you don't get one because they're limited, right? So if you don't get a good enough draw and number to get a permit, the one way you can do it is, I wrote a note here. So what you could do is after the 15th, say on the second round you do not get a permit, go on there and file for a full permit from Sonora Pass, which is a little past Yosemite and Tuolumne Meadows, Sonora Pass up to Canada. And those, I guess what I hear is they're unlimited, because they do go through some state and national parks, but they are not limited how many they can give away. So you can literally get unlimited. And then, so from Mexico to Sonora Pass, which is towards the end of the Sierras, you can file for all the individual permits. That's one way to do it. The main thing you're gonna have to do is figure out roughly, it doesn't have to be exact, but you're gonna have to roughly know, if you kind of do the math and figure out, okay, what do I want to average per day miles wise, and basically figure out if let's just say you want to start, I don't know, April 1st. You got to figure out how many days it's going to take you to get to Sonora Pass, and that way when you file for your Sonora Pass permit, it doesn't have to be exact, but pretty close. You need to pick that date to the end. So you need to kind of figure that out. And some people that don't get permits are just going to try to file for all the individual permits, and it's a lot of work, but you can do it, and you can do it without having to have a whole PCT permit. But I've always just done that because it's the easiest for me. And my first year I got lucky and got a full permit, so I didn't have to worry about that. All right, our second question is from Bill B. How do you plan and deal with your cars when you do those section hikes for 2 or 3 days? So obviously if I'm by myself, like I just did on Christmas, I just go out and back, which are not my favorite because I see the exact same scenery. So how I do it is, it's taken me years and years, and that's part of why I want to eventually start teaching classes, is that I know the sections A and B and C pretty well. A for sure I know by heart. But one of the things is learning where you can and can't leave cars, things like that, and where you feel it's pretty safe. But I'm gonna just read if I have this question all the way down. Yeah, so for 2 or 3 days, how we do this is when I'm with my friends or we plan something, basically we've got to figure out how many people are gonna hike. Now it's kind of weird, you'll plan a hike and 10 people say they'll come and only 5 show up. So it's really hard to, sometimes you kind of have to almost get them to commit for sure towards the end right before you're gonna start. But the main thing you want to do is you all meet at the end, and then you want to have enough cars. It's a couple things. You have to have enough cars for seats, for the butts you're going to put in the seats to get to the start of the hike, okay? The main thing is, if you hike all the way in, we just did this from mile 77, Scissors Crossing, up to, up to Warner Springs. The thing is, though, you have to have enough cars and seats to be able to drive those people back to their car at the start. So you basically meet at the end, go to the start, leave a car there. You have to make sure that there's a place to leave a car at each end legally. And then you hike, and then when you get to the end, you've got to drive those people back to their car. And that's how we do it. I do a lot of solo hiking. I mean, the other way you could do it too is maybe take a Uber or Lyft, something like that, go to the end and then Uber to the start. You could do that, especially if you're by yourself. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. All right, question number 3 is from Cheryl C. She asked, I learned the hard way how to figure out how far to hike each day. Do you look at the water and then find camp? I messed up and kept hiking, and the next camp was 6.5 miles more. I was beat and went way too far. So this is a good question, and the way I'm going to answer this is, part of it's planning and part of it is just experience. On the PCT is different than a lot of other hikes, because when we use the Far Out app is what we use, and it shows real-time comments about water, campsites. What's great about the campsites is, unlike a lot of other trails, there's a lot more. I bet you there are as many campsites that aren't on the app than is on the app. So what's great about that is, let's say you want to do, I don't know, whatever you want to do 15 miles for the day. That's your goal. And you get to 15 miles and you still have 2 hours of light, and the rest part's cruisy or flat or downhill or something that's easy for you. And you're like, I'm going to get a couple more miles in. Well, that's where the app comes in. But even if not, a lot of times it'll say, oh, there's not another campsite for 6.5 miles. But I've had it all the time where I'm like, I'm just going to hike, even if I have to hike in the dark, but I'm just going to hike until I find a campsite. And when you're by yourself, it's easier. Obviously, if you have 5 people, you need a big space for all the tents. But so for one is just trusting that, at least on the PCT, there's so many campsites that aren't on the app that I just know I'll find one. So that's kind of an answer. With water, I think what people don't talk about, which is really super important, is knowing exactly how many miles you go per liter. It's very important. And I'm talking not on a super hot day, not on a cold day where you don't drink as much, but on a normal day when it's kind of medium warm. And like I'm about, if I'm not saving my water for anything, I'm about 1 liter for every 5 miles. Now I've gone 8, 10 miles. I've drunk it way faster. Depends on availability. The longer I've hiked, the less water I drink. It's just, I don't know if it's just because I've acclimated myself and I'm just used to it. If I have plenty of water, I'll definitely pound a lot of water and camel up at sources, which is, you know, when you get water for the next stretch, also drink a liter and put it in you. So I guess the answer to this is that on the PCT, you also have a lot of dry camping, which means not next to water a lot. I mean, I would say 3 out of 4 nights you camp, you're not by water. But obviously, you want to try to plan that. So, but I would try not to let, you know, if you want to do 15 a day and at 11 there's water, and then there's not water for another 10, we'll still get enough water, put some water in you, get enough to go 4 more miles to your 15-mile spot, and enough water to get to the next water in the morning, 5 more miles. So I hope that helps. It's very tough. You have to know yourself really well and know how much you consume. It's super important. But a lot of people don't even think about it and get out there and they get in trouble because they didn't plan well, or they want to scrimp on water because it's heavy. And it's like, that's the one thing, even if it's a little heavy, you should not scrimp on. You can run out of food. Where they say you can almost live 3 weeks without food, but you need water. You know, you need water. So I always err in favor of a little more water if I have to, and just maybe, since you went too far, just throttle back a little bit and not go so far, you know, until you, I don't know if this is like a 2 or 3 day trip, or you're talking longer, or a whole section, but yeah, I think the main thing is just knowing how much you drink, and, you know, per how many miles per liter, and just really, maybe if it's not the PCT too, also plan your trips in detail, and maybe you get in some forums where you can ask about where campsites are and things like that. But I know in a lot of trails, there's a lot more campsites than what are on the maps and the apps. All right, the fourth and final question is a fun one from Stephen Thompson. He's been a follower for a long time. Thank you, Stephen, for the question. What kind of foods do you crave the most when on the trail? So that is great, because it's weird when you have a longer stretch. It's weird how, you know, when you start getting the cravings once you've been on trail a long time. If you have let's just pretend you have a 5-day stretch, which is a big stretch, you know, carrying 5 days of food. I don't ever think about town food, but when you get to like the night before you're going to be in town the next day, I think the night before and the afternoon before, you start thinking about it. And then town day, I know that's Rev and I always yell in our videos, you know, on town day, because it's the best. And really makes you appreciate everything that we take for granted a lot. And to answer your question, I would say burgers and fries and a soda are my #1 craving. And it's just, remember, it's what you're eating, a lot of starchy, non-fresh things on trail, and so in bars and things like that. So just, you know, they taste okay, but they're just dry. And so I've cut out soda in my diet. It's really bad for you, but on the trail, I feel like, you know, I'm drinking so much water, and I always lean down, lose weight, and I'm in such good shape that having a soda here and there doesn't hurt me. But remember, when you're on trail, I mean, you can have some cold water, but there's no ice, there's no anything. So just having anything ice cold in a drink is great. Also, pizza a lot. What else? I'm not a big breakfast eater. I've told you guys that, but like sometimes having that big breakfast in the morning at a diner, like eggs and bacon and hash browns and all that stuff, you know, it's just amazing. And a big cup of coffee, hot coffee, that's really great. And lastly, this will probably surprise you, because I eat a lot of these in real life at home, but on trail, I start thinking about a big, giant, fresh salad. Because like I said, nothing's fresh on trail unless you carry something out with you for the first day. So yeah, believe it or not, fresh salad is amazing to me, or at least sounds amazing. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks for the questions. I think we have enough for one more, so that's great. Keep them coming. You guys, I asked last time because I know we were starting to run out of questions, and you guys gave me some. So give me some more, you guys. We have enough for one more video for sure. But I wanted to thank you for following along on this and all your input. Please consider subscribing, and especially liking the video. Liking's free. That's how I get more views and more subscribers, is you liking it puts it on a different level, and it gets put out to more viewers. Hit the notification bell in the upper right if you want to be notified every time I post one of these videos. And that's it. We'll see you on the next one. Take it easy. Have a good day.